In this video, I'm going to go through this nutrition in plants and transport in plants WA and all the mistakes or improvements I will make, okay? So let's fix your OEQs. So first question, this is about comparing two transpiration experiments, right, where we have 15 degrees and 25 degrees, 15 and 25. Okay, so obviously the one at 25, faster transpiration, and therefore it will lose mass faster. So we look at the two graphs of mass over time, and it makes sense that the dotted line is the 25, the hotter one. That's exactly what we expected. Okay, so now define transpiration. Okay, how I would improve this answer is if you take a look at our note transpiration, you notice this through the stomata in leaves, because that's where the stomata are, in the leaves, not in the other parts of the plant. So I would add mainly through the stomata in the leaves. Okay, that's how to secure a good definition. Right, next question is to describe shown in the figure. So I definitely need to quote real data and interact with the question. And the fact that they say describe and then got in figure, they're like hinting to you, please use the figure. So 3-mark question. Okay, that's quite demanding. We have to give 3 points. So what are the 3 points? Any 3 descriptions or details that you give of the trend, you'll get 3 marks. There is no fixed answers as long as you give 3 valid ones. Okay, let's see what the student did. So at 15 degrees, so for the 15 degree graph, mass decreased from this to this. Now here's a missed opportunity, interpretation and calculation of the data. So which is a decrease of how many? 1.08 grams. Okay, so you calculate the difference and yeah, that would be describing the data even better. Okay, so I would do the same thing for the other one, decrease from 1.48 to 0.1, and that is a decrease of 1.38. Yeah, showing that the mass of the leaf decreases faster. Right, so that was already 2 marks. Comparing the overall trend with which one decreased faster. Second is giving the specifics of the starting and ending of the mass. What is the difference between the starting and ending? Okay, so at this point, we still want to give 1 more mark, right? So what else can we say? What else can we describe? Well, if you notice, there is a steep decrease in this portion from the start to day number 2. From the first to the second day, there's a steep decrease. So we can talk about that. We can say that there is a sharp decrease, 1.48, this place. Okay, so this is 1.0 and then this one is 0.6. So we can say that there is a steep decrease, but the 25 degrees experiment leaf had a sharper decrease, a greater sharp decrease. It went to 0.6. That is another point that we could give, or you could give another. So here's another idea. From day 3 to day 6, you notice something is that there is a linear decrease. So we can say that for both experiments, from day 3 to day 6, there was a linear decrease. So for 25 degrees one, it was from 0.8 to this is 0.5, and then this one is 0.4 to that is 0.1. That's how we will answer this. Now we come to part C, explain the results obtained. So, and yes, this is what the gist of the answer will be about, temperature on transpiration. And guess what? We have a commonly asked question. We have this in our note. So there's a standard answer already, and it's 3 marks. But this question is demanding. They actually want 4 marks and not just 3 marks. Okay, that's a bit annoying. Let's see what's missing in this student's answer in the first place. Okay, higher temperature, like 25. No, I would just be straightforward about it. I'll say that for the 25 degrees one, it's higher temperature than the 15 degrees setup. So the kinetic energy is higher. Kinetic energy of water molecules is higher. Okay, and so the thin film moisture, that's very good, will evaporate into water vapor. I'll say into water vapor at an increased rate. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I'll add the word more. Evaporate into more water vapor. So then more water vapor will diffuse out at a quicker rate. So it's not really about diffusing out at a quicker rate. Now, it is true that temperature does increase the rate of diffusion, but that's not really the main point of this explanation. The main point is just that the evaporation. Okay, that's the main thing, that temperature affects evaporation. And so you will have more water vapor that diffuses out. So it's not about the rate, right? I wouldn't write this. I'll just say more diffuses out, because why? There's more that has evaporated. That's why more comes out. So now this student says at 15 degrees, blah, blah, blah. And all this stuff, right, is just the opposite of what the front part is. So you're actually repeating yourself, because you've already shown you understand the concept. Why repeat yourself? Why say the opposite way for everything else? You're not actually adding more value. So I would just remove the end part. So use comparative language, say more, say higher, say faster, and the template answer is actually here. Okay, so there's something I don't agree with this teacher who marked it, right? Which is concentration gradient, not the crux of the explanation. The crux of the explanation should be about evaporating faster, which was already there. Instead, concentration gradient is for humidity-related questions. So let me show you. Humidity affecting transpiration. Then we talk about concentration gradient is less steep or whatever. And for this one, air movement or wind, that affects humidity, and therefore we talk about concentration gradient again. So it's like this is the wrong place to fit it in. If I was the setter, the marker, I would not talk about concentration gradient. And if I saw this in O levels and they gave me 4 marks, right, what I would do is I would just assume that they are being generous. So if I just give my standard 3 mark answer here, a generous answer key, give me 4 marks. A less generous answer key might give me 2 marks. So I would assume that's what they want. Part D. So we see over time, there was bright light, 12 hours, and no water was given to this thing, and it's a very hot room. So you can expect that transpiration is very high, and it loses water. As it loses water, the guard cells of the stomata are becoming flaccid because they're losing water, right? And that closes the stomata, and that's what we see. So now let's go to the question. Function of the stomata. Okay, this was good. It was 1 mark. I would add, to make it better, right, I would say diffuse in and out from where to where. Because movement of things is always from one place to another, right? So if in bio you can be specific and state where to where, it's always good. Between the intercellular air spaces and the air outside the leaf or outside the stomata. That's showing the two places. Okay, then part 3. State the advantage of the change to the stomata, which is the closing, right? The stomata close. Okay, so let's hope your teacher does not watch this video. If not, they might reduce your marks, huh? Because the guard cell becomes flaccid, not turgid. So your teacher didn't spot this mistake. Yeah, they become flaccid. When they become turgid, it actually opens, right? So let me show you why. Because here is a very very turgid guard cells. Okay, and then when they lose water, you see the stomata closes. So actually, it should be flaccid. So closes the stomata. Actually, it's a single stoma, singular, right? Not stomata, but it's okay. Not a big deal. So which allows water to vapor diffuse out at a slower rate. So small tip, which decreases rate water vapor diffuses out. Full stop. Do you see how we can save some word? Okay, then decreasing transpiration rate and preventing further water loss. Now, how is it an advantage though? Preventing water loss, what's wrong with that? Why not just lose water, right? So I like to add this, or I like to phrase it this way: conserve, to save it. I like to phrase it this way. It shows the advantage better. Okay, then now E. Anyway, for the previous part, it's just 1 mark, so don't need to be super long. This was a good enough answer. Now part E. Increase humidity. Okay, so once I see this, I instantly think of when we have more humidity, concentration gradient less steep, so decrease the transpiration rate. So predict and explain the effect on the stomata. So the prediction is lower transpiration, right? So if it's losing water slower and becoming flaccid slower, it takes more time to close the stomata. So what I would see is that maybe it will only fully close at this one, at the number 12. Maybe all these will still be open, right? And all these will still have a relatively big stoma. It's taking longer. And then the explanation part is the CAQ, which I showed you just now. So the stomata will open more often. Well, not say more often, right? But it will remain open for longer. It will close slower. It will take longer to close. Okay? So that was the mistake. I like to give the logical flow of the answer and then put the final effect, which is the stomata will remain open longer, at the end only. But it's fine, you can put it at the start too, right? I just prefer to put it at the end because it follows the logic. So when humidity is higher, right? Because this is increase, it's a comparative thing. We should use comparative language. There is greater of water vapor present in the air. Very good. Concentration of water vapor in intercellular airspace, okay, compared to is less deep. Less deeper is not a thing, just less deep. Okay, meaning it will diffuse out slower. That's correct. Decrease transpiration rate. Therefore, it will open for longer. There's a missing link. The missing link is why is losing water slower going to make the stomata open for longer. And what's missing here is take longer for the guard cells. Okay, and therefore stomata will open for longer, or you can say it will take longer to close. So that's how it changes answer. Alright, what we see here is the typical limiting factor kind of question. They always have this graph. The graph is always split into two parts. So the first part is the increase, second part is the plateau. So this kind of question, they want us to explain those things. So first, you see, we always take from our database. Our database is the CAQs, which we studied. Let's go and find. Okay, so look at this. This is the CAQ we want to draw our knowledge from. First part of the graph, we notice an increase, right? Which is this area. That's the first point. And it's explained by this. Because if you give more ingredient, which is light energy, to the plant, then you can make more of the cake, right? Which is glucose. With more ingredients, you can make more cakes. So more light, you can make more glucose. So we have increasing rate of photosynthesis. Then why does it plateau here? So why it plateaus is that light is no longer limiting factor. That is the key phrase that must be in the answer. And this part is actually optional. You don't even need to put it in. So that's why I want to see no longer limiting factor. So they ask us describe and explain the reasons for the shape of lines B and C. Now this is a bit of a loaded question and it's 6 marks as you can see. So yeah, it makes sense. That's quite a loaded question. Why? Why do I say that? Because we have to do several things here, right? First is for both B and C, we need to describe the shape. And the shape has two parts, right? The increase part and the plateau part. Next, we have to explain why is B higher than C? Why did C cap out sooner? And the difference is in the CO2 concentration. For why B higher, the explanation is CO2. Okay, why the shape increase? Because it was still limiting factor. Light is an ingredient and we need to show the link from light to photosynthesis. How does it affect photosynthesis rate? Then the plateau is because no longer. So from this I can see my 6 marks already. 1 mark for talking about the shape increase. 2 marks here once I explain it. 3 marks for the plateau. And then 4 marks once I explain, which is no longer limiting. 5 marks for why B is higher. 6 marks once I explain that is because of CO2. And I need to show how CO2 links to photosynthesis. So very nice. I have 6 marks. Okay, so now I'm going to look through this answer and we're going to check, do we have these 6 points and how what's lacking. Okay, so the first part, line C, max rate is lower than line B. So this is actually point number 5, where you describe that difference. Okay, then what we expect after point number 5 is explain, right, the CO2 thing. So this is hard for the marker to identify where your marks are. You are jumbling up, give 0.6 right after this first sentence, right? Like 0.1 to 6 in my order, sure. But if you give 5, 6 and then 1 to 4, that's also going to be full mark. I'm now looking for the CO2 thing. Okay, I'm still looking. This is 0.6. More CO2 higher than line C. Okay, now why, right? Why does more CO2 help photosynthesis? We're looking for that. And the answer is that it's an ingredient. If you give me more chocolate, I can make more chocolate cake. Give me more eggs, I can make more, what do we make? Scrambled eggs, right? I can make more scrambled eggs if you give me more egg. This means CO2 is a limiting factor. Yeah, okay, but there's still, I want to see the explanation. Actually, the explanation for why it is an ingredient is not there. You're just saying that because you gave me more egg, therefore we can have more scrambled egg. But why? Well, because we have to crack the egg open, we have to put it in the pan, and then we have to, mix with the butter. And so the more eggs you give me, the more scrambled eggs volume I can produce. See, that is explaining why that ingredient leads to more of the result for the carbon dioxide. Okay, and here's the answer. More CO2 can be used to make more glucose. That's why photosynthesis goes up. Okay, that was the thing I was looking for that was missing. So that would be for 0.6. So 0.6 is incomplete, okay? So now we have gone through. So the shape where we have an increase, and why does that increase? Like, why does it lead to more increase? Okay, I see it. Increased light intensity means more light energy. Good, I like that comparative word, more light. Use in the process of photosynthesis. How? To convert carbon dioxide into glucose. Okay, but there's a missing link, right? Like, how is light helping photosynthesis? Because light is absorbed by chlorophyll. So that's the direct thing that light interacts with, right? More light energy by chlorophyll and converted into more chemical. Okay, and the chemical energy was already mentioned here, into more of this. And that is then going to increase the rate of. So you can be more specific and say more chemical energy, therefore carbon dioxide becomes glucose faster. Yeah, sure. Or you can just say more chemical energy, hence photosynthesis rate increases. That's good enough. So we've gone through point 2. Yeah, point 2 was, okay, and point 1. Okay, actually point 1 wasn't really described yet. I don't think point 1 was properly described, to say that from 0 to low light intensities, both B and C increase in rate. High light intensity, to add high light intensity, further increasing light does not further increase rate. Okay, that would be the describing for 1 and 3. So where can we find that? We can find it here. See, at high enough light intensity, increasing further does not increase the rate anymore, as light is no longer a limiting factor. Okay, so I found that here. Light is no longer the limiting factor. Good. Number 4 is there. So in general, this answer lacks more precise description and it lacks organization. And as you can see, that is why it's very hard for the marker to find your marks, and they only give 2 out of 6. So always start with a clear plan, have clarity of thought. And this plan, actually, it doesn't really come from like, wow, you're so smart and then you can, create this plan. Actually, it's from our CAQs which you study. So this thing, if you try and find, how can I fit it in there? Okay, so I fit it in there because, here and then here, this is the describe, and then the explanation is already here. For this last question, I actually can't see the data for it, so I'll just comment whatever I can. This one is asking us, is it when we increase temperature, it will increase the yield of crop plants. So here's the overall thought process we have to go through. So when you increase temperature, it will increase rate of enzyme reactions. Why? Because kinetic energy increases. So increase this, enzyme substrate complexes form faster, okay? And then this increases the rate of enzyme reactions, including photosynthesis, because photosynthesis is controlled by enzymes. So if more photosynthesis means faster production of glucose. Okay, but we still have to link to the ultimate thing, which is the ultimate goal is increases crop yield. What does that mean? It means that maybe usually if I plant this amount of land, I can get like 200 corns, right? But if I increase the rate of photosynthesis, for some reason, I'm able to get maybe 300 corn. So how do we link more glucose produced to more corn or more food, whatever the food is? Because more glucose means faster growth of plants, okay? And that includes the parts that we want to harvest, more of the edible parts of the crop. Or you can just say more of the crop, that also works, right? Like if they give a specific fruit, like maybe corn, then you can put that. And so that's how, in the same amount of time and the same amount of land, each plant is bigger, okay, or has more yield, and therefore we define our final outcome, increases crop yield. So that is why it's lacking. And you see, that's why the teacher put production of glucose, because glucose is one of the links, right? The more glucose we have, the more the plant can grow. So the growth of plants part, I think, wasn't there also. Increased rate of photosynthesis. Yeah, so the link between crop, increased yield of crop, and this, the link was missing. How does that help? Because it's used for growth of plants. And we can even be more specific. We can say, example, in building the cell walls, okay, because glucose is the unit used in cellulose. Example, starch as well. Okay, and actually glucose is then converted to many different things like amino acids, which are used to build protein. Okay, so we can give a few examples of how glucose contribute to the growth. Yeah, and then with that, plus you quote the data because they ask with reference to the figure, you quote the data which was missing. I think that is how to easily you would max out the 5 marks.